them to. For those of you here in the room, we have this one microphone that you get to come line up to. When you come up and it is your turn, you get one question. And then you go to the back of the line. If you try to sneak in a second question, you have to buy lunch for everyone sitting in your row. So everybody in the row, keep an eye on people, and if they try to sneak in that second question. Also, if you currently have an application or submission in front of the agency that you have a question about, this is not the venue for that question. That should be directed to your RPM or contact at the agency. What we're looking for are general broad questions on the topics our presenters just covered. If you have very, very specific things about your listing or something like that, that's what we're going to have those breakout sessions over here on the side with the text with. But don't be shy. Any questions you have, come on up to the microphone. Since we've got nobody at the microphone yet, let's go ahead and start with our first online question, please.
It's on green. There we go. Okay. If you contract this is, I guess, for Don. If you contract someone to manufacture your drug, do you need a labeler code? Actually, that would be for Pooh. Do you still need a labeler code yourself?
Yes, you do.
Yes, and just a note to everybody here and online, we're getting a lot of questions about the private label distributor contract manufacturer relationship. We're going to cover that a little more in product listing, so I'm going to let those questions go. We have a question from the audience.
Drugs. My site is a wholesale distributor and a U.S. agent. Do we need to electronically register?
If you're a wholesale distributor, no. If you're, I'm sorry, can you explain a little bit more about what exactly you're doing? So, you know, because people have different names.
Okay.
So
The manufacturer for the API is located in Europe. We import it here and we distribute it.
Under your own name?
Under our own name. Well, no, under the manufacturer's name.
Oh, that kind of distributor.
I'll go ahead and handle this real quick.
We have an FEI number, but there's no way to electronically list
registration is not required under Section 510 for as a drug manufacturer. There may be a requirement to register under the DSCSA, the WDD Wholesale Drug Distributor Third-Party Logistics System. It's remarkably similar. There's a little bit of additional or different information involved in that, but you do not have to register under this process. So I recommend, and for any other questions about wholesale drug distributors, third-party logistics, and the reporting of state licensure and all that stuff, you see that, and I can give you a contact email for that too. I'll go look it up.
Thank you.
All right. If there's anybody else, come on up to the microphone.
Hi, good morning. I don't know who to ask this question, but considering the annual re-registration, etc., I've gone through multiple scenarios with errors, fixed them, etc. Most recently, I came across, and this is after re-registration was successful, that one of the site DUNS number, what I have is correct, the system accepts it is correct. But when I checked with the DNB site, it does not match on the search that I do. However, the database seems to be correct because it accepted the registration.
Well,
and this is a foreign site, not within the US.
It's a foreign site. So what you're saying is you send it in, it's accepted, but then where is it showing up on the Decker's site?
I searched for accuracy on the DNB site,
right,
and it takes you to a link, and the reply comes by email from samhelp@DNB.
Well, we can't say, okay, what our experience is with DNB is sometimes it's not always as quickly reflected in their data as we would like. So we might go and check the data, and you may, oh, go ahead.
But this is an awkward situation. It was
Well, I have
last
a
year,
solution.
same information, this year, same information, but in between, something changed at DNB database, which is inexplicable to us. So I wrote them back, and I'm waiting for their answer.
You're saying, though, I'm trying to understand, you don't have a problem with your registration, but you're saying DNB is sending you something saying something has changed.
Exactly, and even completely wrong city name and
Oh, yeah, well,
a lot of mess.
yeah, I mean, we have a certain relationship, I guess, with DNB, but we don't have control over DNB. If it turns into a situation that actually affects your registration,
But
email us.
only concern I have is if this difficulty would lead to, in process later on, saying something's not right.
It can. So just as you all know, we use DNB. DNB will look to other submissions and other government records, particularly local, state government records, or for foreign facilities. They'll look to submissions within that country to continue to verify and quality control their data. And when they find a discrepancy, they may come back to you and say, all right, well, your record, our original record to this, or this is what you originally told us when you applied for a DUNS number, but over here on this record, it says something different. As we generally said, I don't know if Don mentioned it in his presentation, we can't control what they do. We just say, work it out with Dun & Bradstreet, and then whatever you agree to, however your record, your company name, your address should look, once you fix it with them, then submit it to us.
I'm seeking advice on the timing of registering and also requesting a labor code for an organization that's in the transition from clinical to commercial. So they're filing their first commercial application. I'm looking for, I know that we have to be registered within 5 days of intent to commercialize, but should we be starting earlier? And there is a perception that it could open up a site to an inspection risk if it's done too early.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't have I mean, I suppose it could, because when you register, you're putting your establishment into the pool to be inspected.
Mm-hmm.
However, the way they do the inspections is it's not just, let's just take the next one. They look at all kinds of different factors and factor that in as to who should we inspect next. And so maybe Paul, I don't think there's a big inspection risk for somebody who has never registered their manufacturing site and they're waiting. So the idea is, I guess, first of all, let me just say, it doesn't take very long to get a registration done. It doesn't take very long to get a labeler code done. So
I guess, I'm sorry, because I was dealing with something else. What the question is, the considerations of being inspected ahead of.
When it's your first time moving towards commercial for any facility, and you're in that period where, for instance, a BLA or NDA is being filed, the timing of when you should start this process.
You'll need to, it's my understanding, again, you should work with, as Jeff said earlier, any questions about approvals and application stuff, work with your RPM in the review division. It's my understanding that you'd have to, or the facility would have to be inspected as a part of the approval. So there'd be a pre-approval inspection, and that inspection, in order to pass GMP requirements, you would be required to register. So there's no penalty to register if you're not yet required to. If it's a little early, that's fine. You just might have to maintain it a little longer, especially if there's a delay in the approval. Yeah, as far as the inspection, as Don was saying, that's up to the field and whatever the scheduling is for pre-approval or regularly scheduled GMP inspection.
So then the advice would be for something with an application pending for which there need to be a PAI, PLI, that really the time to register is before you think that inspection is going to occur.
Yes,
So really
absolutely.
at the time of filing.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of companies, I can't say whether it's required, but I do know that some companies will register very soon after filing the 356H for the application. So,
One thing I just want to say is when you get your labeler code, if you don't list a drug within 24 months, it gets inactivated. However, you shouldn't be real scared by that because the only thing we need to reactivate it is your data on the drug that you're going to be manufacturing. Once we get that, we can, within 48 hours or so, have your labeler code reactivated. And what it does is it protects you from somebody taking that labeler code maybe and
so
it out there.
you can, depending on how far out you are from the anticipated approval, to Don's point, you may not need the labeler code request just yet. So, but you can register the firm, but not necessarily file for the labeler code until you know you're within 2 years of approval, because otherwise you have to go through the inactivation process. And that actually dovetails into, there were more than one question about what happens with an inactivated, or when we inactivate a labeler code. Do you notify the firm, and then how does a company reactivate the labeler code? Can you go through that process, Pui?
So once a labeler code is assigned, within 2 years, if you do not use that labeler code, it will, as I mentioned, will be inactivated. Before we inactivate it, though, I believe it's 30 days before inactivation, we send a verification or a reminder to the firm to let you know that this labeler code is about to be inactivated. If you have any reasons why it should remain active, please email us. And at that point, we would go in the system, we can postpone the inactivation, or if it does get inactivated, if you don't have any drugs at the time, we suggest that it stays inactive until you're ready. You just have to send us an email with the product information, the proposed NDC, the proposed marketing date, and then we can go and reactivate the labeler code again.
Okay, microphone here in the room, nice and close for me,
Quick
please.
question. I know all API manufacturers need to be registered, but the struggle always comes in with the atypical actives. So kind of the question is, when you're doing the drug listing, how do you list the atypical active manufacturers in the drug listing? Some of them are like IPAC qualified, so sometimes they get rejected in
Well, you would just put them down in the establishment section.
in the esta-
Right, of the listing, and where you could say, the establishment, and then what actual activity it's performing, be it manufacturer, relabel, package, whatever, and you would just put it down there. Now, if they're not registered, your listing will fail.
the listing will
Validation.
fail.
Yeah. So what you'll need to do, I would say, in anticipation of listing, you could go out to the Deckers list, and you could see if people are listed there. And if they're not listed there, if you don't see your manufacturer listed there, you need to contact them and say, hey, I noticed you're not on the Deckers list. Can you make sure that you are there before I list?
I just want to add that I think Julian is going to go in detail, go over product listing later.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, again, if there's any questions in the room, come on up to the mic, but
Can-
let's take our next
can I just-
online question.
Yeah, can I just take this is a kind of a quickie thing for Don. It's a double part question, but related. What's the max number of establishments on one submission you can have? And if you have multiple establishments on a submission, how can you deregister one of them?
Okay. Let me ask my systems person. How many establishments can go on an SPL? Unlimited.
Yeah, it is. I've seen as many as 25 on one.
Okay.
I don't recommend it because that can get to be pretty unwieldy, but it is. Yeah.
Right.
So how do you deregister one of them, Don?
Okay. Well, you could drop it, which would mean, the word drop means you would send in the SPL with all the establishments except for the one that you want to get rid of. And that's always kind of it's not a big deal as long as you always remember to do it, but people have dropped establishments off by mistake too. But that would be generally the way we tell you to do it.
Okay, microphone number one, nice and close for me, please.
Hi, good morning. I think you may have just answered my question. I was wondering if you do an SPL renewal with multiple establishments, each year when you're going back and renewing again, do you have to have those same establishments on there? But
If those are the ones you want to be renewed, yes. Now, if you got rid of establishment and you want to just leave it off, you just leave it off, and then you just renew the ones that that are actually still there for you.
So out of 10, if you have 10 establishments and out of 10, one of them is no longer manufacturing, in your update this year, for example, you would have all the other 9s and just drop that one establishment.
Just treat it like a regular SPL, it'd be the
Yes.
new version and just drop off the
Yeah,
one that I
everything is there, but what something's missing, you know, that one establishment is gone, and then you're good.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay, and we can sneak in one more quick online question, please.
I'll add, hopefully this is a quick one for Pui. In applying for a labeler code, how do you decide whether you want a 442, 541, or 532 configuration for your NDCs?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the labeler code is assigned by us, but the configuration, the full 10-digit configuration, the product code and package code needs to be decided by the company. So if you are proposing to have, 1,999, you'd use a 532 configuration, for example. So that is up to you.
Can I just say one thing? When you list your first product, that's when you make your decision. So be aware, when you list that first product, whatever configuration that is, 532 or 541, that is the configuration you're stuck with for that labeler code. Okay?
And I would just add, so in thinking, first of all, there's no more 442s, so don't worry about that. But think about, so 541, 532, do you want up to 10,000 products, but only at most 10 package presentations for each product, that one-digit package code? Or do you want up to 1,000 products, but multiple double-digit package presentations over time? Or do you have product lines that you'll have, 10 different sizes or 10 different package types, bottles, vials, ampules, all that good stuff? But as Don said, you got to think about it beforehand. Ask your boss, ask your product, research development people, how many product listings do you anticipate over time? And plan accordingly. Jeff, thank you.
All right, thank you, Paul. And help me thank